Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Anani. I know, you read the title of the video and it is true. Look at the shirt. Look at the shirt. Look what type of time we're on. Thank you, Auntie, for the shirt. We all have matching ones that we are wearing when we go and see Michael. We are so excited. For those of you that know, my family and I, we don't play. We don't play about Michael Jackson, the king of pop. We get down about Michael. So we are very excited. I'm gonna take you guys along with us. You can click the timestamp here if you wanna skip straight to the review, or you can stay tuned and I'm gonna take you guys along with us on the journey to see Michael. This is gonna be like pretty much my last outing with my family before I move to Jamaica. So yeah, I'm gonna really take this in, gonna really enjoy it. We're also gonna eat lunch there because we're actually seeing this early. We're seeing this like at, we have a 3 p.m. showtime. So yeah, I'm gonna take this all in, really enjoy it. I really hope the movie is good. I think it will be. I've seen some clips and I'm actually like really impressed. And it takes, let me tell you something, like I know the man Michael Jackson, but it takes me a lot to get impressed when people try to portray Michael Jackson, even like impersonators and stuff like that. I'd be like, your kick is terrible. The glove, that's not it. The socks, no sir. You know, but I will say, like, from the clips that I have seen, I'm real impressed with Jafar. Like, I'm actually really impressed. Like, some clips I've seen, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you really encapsulated Michael's energy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, ooh, I'm very excited to see, like, if my thoughts match reality. But yeah, guys, let's get into it. Let's go see Michael.
Okay, girls, let's go see this movie.
Are you recording for the feed?
Yes. Right? Let's do it.
Do it, ladies.
Okay, Carrington, get a picture of me with my fit.
Yes.
My $2 fit.
You're so. Oh my gosh! Hold on, let me get you good. Look at her.
Oh,
look at the glitter though.
Ooh,
oh, let me get a close up. Oh, look at the glitter. Y'all don't know about it.
Yes.
Oh, who are they? Amon and Billy G. It's so cute. We made it. Let's do this. Come on, Jafar. What you got for us? Let's go. Ooh, gotta do some things. Look, get me an icy, guys. Always get an icy. I think I'm gonna do a mix. I think I'm gonna do a wild cherry and Coke moment. And I gotta do a little Cokey Coke. Period. Is it extra? Maybe. It's so good. So good. Are you ready, girl?
We're ready.
Yay. Just finished. For anybody wondering how it went, my aunt is still seated. She can't even get out of her chair. It's like that. Woo, guys, I had to leave the theater. My family's doing the most. And they want to, for some reason, debrief in the theater, but I'm overstimulated. So I came to the car because I can't. But guys, when I tell you the movie was so freaking good, Jafar needs himself an Oscar for that. When I tell you the movie was so freaking good, the pacing was immaculate. The acting was phenomenal on all sides. The music selection, the transitions, everything was absolutely fantastic. The story arc, how they did it, where they even ended at, I think was genius. I think the whole movie was absolutely chef's kiss. Like I showed you guys in the previous clip, like, and again, my family's still literally in the theater. Like they're sweeping around them and they're like, we don't care, like we're in the theater. Like they're still sitting in the theater just jamming to the ending credits sort of a thing. So yeah, like I say, if that doesn't tell you what it is, then that should tell you what it is. But I'll go more in depth in my analysis a little bit later, but this is just my first raw reaction. Tens across the board, for real.
Even with that, I said, oh no, they giving me that trauma.
Yes.
They giving me his little eyes, they giving me his, and then the other guy, and then girl Joe's looking like a wolf. It was so bad.
Okay guys, we have made it back. I have switched locations. They're still in the house talking about the Michael movie, so I came out here so I could have some quiet while I'm talking to you guys about it. But guys, out of a scale of 1 to 10, the Michael movie, I kid you not, and I am not just saying this because I like Michael Jackson, 10 across the board. So I think first and foremost, what I want to talk about in this review, we're going to start off with the acting of all the people involved in this film. So first and foremost, we have to talk about Jafar Jackson. I was absolutely 100% without a doubt blown away. His acting performance as Michael Jackson was absolutely incredible. There were times, I kid you not guys, I am looking at the screen and it's so uncanny. I'm like, am I looking at Michael Jackson or am I looking at Jafar Jackson? I mean, it was that spot on. Everything from the eyes to the facial movements, to the micro movements, to the walk, to the, way he carries himself. It read so much Michael Jackson. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. I kid you not. I think I watched a review and Jafar had said he was more into music before this. He had never really, thought about acting. He had got an acting coach specifically for this role. And let me tell you, it paid off so much to the point where I kid you not, I feel like Jafar Jackson is up for an Oscar. I feel like he is up for an Oscar for his portrayal of his uncle. I mean, it was that phenomenal. So I cannot say enough praise in Jafar's favor for his work in bringing Michael back to life for us on the big screen and telling his story. It was absolutely amazing. The next person I want to discuss, Coleman Domingo as Joe Jackson. Oh my goodness. I feel like he did a phenomenal job. When you guys go and watch the movie, you'll see more of what I'm talking about. My aunt put it, I think, in the best way possible. It really felt like the big bad wolf, and it kind of gave, I think, what they were intending to portray, which is kind of these dynamics of fatherly intimidation. And of course, we're seeing that dynamic portrayed through, of course, Joe Jackson with Michael Jackson's relationship. But I feel like just for the average everyday person, like my mother said when she came out of the theater, the average everyday person can relate to intimidating fathers. And of course, the spectrum of that, I believe, varies. But depending on even the level of that, if you deal with that, you can definitely relate and understand even the feelings that Michael must have been feeling when dealing with his dad. And like I say, I think Coleman Domingo and his portrayal of Joe Jackson really kind of brought that dynamic to the screen, right? Where anytime, he kind of, his presence is he has a scene and his presence is there, you can feel through the screen how Michael's feeling, right? And of course, also too, that gives applause to Jafar's acting ability as well, because he's able to portray the feeling, but you can feel it, right? Your nervous system kind of, shakes when you see Joe come on the screen. And even, you know, in dark parts, you know, if you see the the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. But parts where Michael's just kind of to himself, you can feel that Joe is like lurking around in the darkness, like he's coming, you know. And so that kind of feeling of always being on edge, always, you know, woo, like spooked and boogly boo, you know, you can feel that. And I feel like it is portrayed excellently through Coleman Domingo's performance as Joe Jackson. Next, Miss Nia Long as the incomparable matriarch of the Jackson family, Miss Katherine Jackson. Nia Long did such an amazing job portraying Miss Jackson. I felt that she exuded such a maternal quality, but I feel like, and I'm gonna leave the interpretation up to the watcher when you go and watch the movie, because I don't want to kind of spoil, you know, too much, but I feel like she gave layers to Katherine Jackson that I think maybe before this, maybe people may not have thought of, even in regard to maybe her relationship with Joe and maybe some of the things that could have entailed. I feel like the Jackson family, yes, of course, some things leak out here and there in the media over the years and stuff like that. But I feel like for the most part, Katherine has dealt with whatever has occurred within that household with grace, dignity, and she has kept certain things, I feel, unto herself, right? And like I say, this particular movie it's not the Katherine Jackson film, right? So it didn't like touch on, you know, certain, you know, maybe issues within her marriage with Joe, but I do feel like certain things were alluded to. And however the watcher chooses to view that, you can view it that way. But I do feel like Nia Long's portrayal of Katherine Jackson was phenomenal. And you could feel this warmth, this maternal warmth. Obviously she's a mother, but I think the way her and Jafar played off of each other, you know, as mother and son, and it was warm, and you could feel the love, you know, that I feel Katherine and Michael had towards one another. And so I think that Nia did a phenomenal job. I think she, even in her walk and her stride and stuff like that, I feel she really nailed the incomparable Miss Katherine Jackson, in my opinion. Next, we had the actor that played Bill Barr. I do apologize for not knowing his name. I will put it on the screen so I can give this actor a shout out for his fabulous portrayal of Bill Barr. For those of you that don't know, you can go do research. Bill Barr was, you know, yes, a security kind of a detail guy, but for the Michael Jackson fans out there, they know that Bill Barr was actually also too like one of Michael Jackson's extreme confidants. Even when Bill Barr, from my understanding, when he passed away later on in life, Michael took care of his entire funeral costs and everything. So they were very close. And I loved the dynamic between Bill Barr and Michael Jackson and what they showed in this film. I think it showed a paternal warmth that I think he was missing from Joe. And I think he was also a good sounding board for Michael. I think Michael already knew deep down what he needed to do, but sometimes you need to talk to somebody, confide in somebody, and hearing that, you know, speaking it out and being able to have somebody give you feedback, it helps you solidify your courage and things like that. So of course, go and watch the movie, but I think he did a phenomenal job. Another shout out, the actor that played little Michael Jackson, I think did phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. He, again, exuded the correct emotion. You felt it through the screen. You could feel even, you know, the little idiosyncrasies that Michael Jackson had. I think he portrayed it extremely well. I think his acting overall was phenomenal. I'm going to put his name on the screen because I don't know it off the top of my head, but fabulous. He did a wonderful job. Oh my goodness, it was great. So those are my honorable mentions for the actors and actresses. Of course, there were so many more. Like I say, everybody in this film played their part and played it very well. Now, to discuss the pacing of the movie. Overall, I thought the pacing was very good. At the beginning, I think maybe some could say it was a little bit, you know, trying to get to the point, right? So they showed like a little bit of Michael's childhood and, you know, they would speed up, you know, little parts here and there. And then eventually they're trying to get to when he is in his off the wall phase, right? And I don't particularly have a problem with that. I get why. I feel like if you want to see, to be frank, if you want to see more in depth of, you know, the Jackson 5 genesis unto Billie Jean or wherever you want to take it, there is a movie for that. It's called The Jacksons, The American Dream, and you'll get your life. We love it. I'm sure all of you have seen it if you've seen Michael, but that is what that movie is for. This movie was in particular for Michael. So I didn't have a problem with the pacing of the beginning. That is the only part I think maybe people may say something about it, but I loved it. I think it was fine. And the whole pacing of the entire movie, I think, was absolutely excellent. I think they spent enough time in parts they needed to spend time on. I think they went through parts that didn't need too much time. So I don't have a complaint with it. Overall, I think it was fabulous. Next, I am going to give big kudos to whoever did, I don't know if it's called sound design or soundtrack choice. I don't know what it's called, but whoever did it, you ate that. I loved all of the songs used for this movie, and I loved exactly how they were used. Without, you know, spoiling it, or the use of bad, loved it. The use of wanna be starting something, the use of human nature, you know, the use of, I can't help it, you know, I loved it. Billie Jean, but every song that was chosen, chef's kiss, I love it. The next thing that I will say about this movie that I loved, obviously this is a backstory on Michael Jackson's life, you know, how he became Michael, right? But what I really loved about this movie, and we were talking about this in the car, my mom, aunt, sister, cousin, all of us, we were in the car debriefing. I feel like they really took their time to give a lot of psychology, right? And I don't mean like overt type of a psychology, but it was a lot of things alluded to that I think was absolutely genius. Like I briefly touched on before, again, these kinds of dynamics that he had with his father, right? I am a woman, but I know just from, you know, the men in my life and things like that, it is quite an experience that I have heard for a man to come into his manhood and have to come to certain terms with their father's role in their life and what that means for them, for their life. And I think the psychology of where Michael's mind was, how in which he found the best way for himself to be able to stand up to his father, right? I think that was interesting. I think, like I said before, male or female, but I think in particular, I think young boys coming of age, maybe even in their 20s, 30s, however, you know, but I feel like they will particularly, find some form of comfort or relief or even encouragement in seeing that even the biggest star in the world of all time had to face the big bad wolf, right? The big bad wolf. And to be able to find a way to conquer that works for you, right? And like I say, even women, anybody, you know, when you have overbearing parents, overbearing fathers, you know, you can see the strength, the courage, the bravery that it takes when someone is using gaslighting tactics, manipulation tactics, making you feel like you're letting the family down tactics, all of these things, and finding the strength and courage to conquer that. So I think they did a brilliant job tackling the psychological aspects of these relationship dynamics between a parent and child, but in particular, a father and a child. Because I do feel like within households, you know, I do feel like sometimes fathers have this belief that not just I'm your parent, but this belief that I own you. So your assets belong to me. Your dreams belong to me. Your ideals belong to me. Anything that comes through this house with this name on it, I have a right to view it, see it, look at it, because you belong to me. I own you type of a mentality. And of course, this is talked about on a grand scale because it's, you know, Michael Jackson, he had a lot of money and different assets, but you can even talk about this same concept on a smaller scale. So I think that being touched on was absolutely brilliant. Another part that I want to talk about with this movie, and this might be controversial. When I say this, I am not diagnosing anyone. I have no authority to do that. I, of course, do not know Michael Jackson personally. I am not a therapist. I have no license to say any of this, okay? This is just kind of my thought process. But from certain things that I've watched of Michael Jackson over the years and of observing Michael Jackson, it is my personal belief. Again, I have no credence, you know, to diagnose anybody, but it is my personal belief that I do believe, and I mean this in the most absolutely respectful way possible, 100%. I believe that Michael Jackson could have been on a low spectrum of autism, right? I believe he could have had a low grade of autism, right? And I think this movie, I feel they kind of alluded to that without saying it, right? Certain behaviors he would do, or little things, you know, little, you know, idiosyncrasies that he had, right? It very much, in my opinion, could be behavior reminiscent of somebody on the autism spectrum, right? And I think how they touched on it without touching on it, I think was absolutely genius. And I think how they touched on it without fully touching on it was genius. I myself am not diagnosed or anything, but I'm pretty sure, like, if I ever went to go get a diagnosis, they would probably say I myself am on an autism spectrum, right? I do think probably on a lower side, but I definitely do think I have autistic tendencies 100%. So kind of being able to look at that and relate to that and be like, oh, he's doing that behavior, I can relate to that. Or, oh, he can't do this behavior. Oh, I get it, because I can't either, right? It was warm. It was comforting in a sense, right? And it was quite relatable. So like I say, I don't know any diagnosis for sure, but I think they were kind of alluding to a certain thing, and I think it was very tasteful and very beautiful with how they did it. Another point that I loved that they did, right? So a lot of times when people are discussing Michael Jackson or his music, or especially in relation to the creation of Thriller, right? A lot of people like to give all of the glory to Quincy Jones, right? I'm not going to take away from Quincy Jones and his accomplishments and his accolades, but I do feel like sometimes people try to just throw it all on Quincy to negate Michael's genius. But what I love in this movie, they focused, I feel, on that. They focused on him saying, you know, I'm trying to get this information, and, you know, him doing the beats with his mouth and trying to think about everything. And they show his bulletin board, and, you know, they show his hand and his own creative process, which I feel like a lot of times people try to shy away from because they don't want to, you know, further give Mike even more claps. But no, he needs his full claps. He needs his full just desserts. You know what I'm saying? So I love that. And even showing kind of, you know, some of the inspiration behind his music videos and certain media he was watching and things like that, right? They touched on, of course, you know, him watching, you know, Gene Kelly and all these things, right? But of course, like, you know, too, like when they showed flashbacks to him younger, he was studying Jackie Wilson and James Brown, and, you know, he was a student, a very, very, very meticulous student of Black culture, right? So I don't know, I loved how they showed him watching, observing, honing his craft, being so dedicated to learning the artistry and becoming the greatest that he is. So I loved that they did that, right? We get it, all these people, Quincy Jones and stuff like that, that had a part in his project, we get it. But I never want to put 100% of the glory on this and try to negate all that Michael really, really did for his projects. He was very hands-on, and I like the fact that they showed that in this film. Pepsi. And they touched on his burns that he got from that Pepsi commercial. And I love the fact that they said how serious it was. Like, Michael got burned really, really, really bad, actually. Quite life-threatening. And the fact that he was able to come back from that and stuff like that. Of course, there's going to be a part 2 to this film, so I'm very excited about that. So of course they're going to touch more on, I feel, the vitiligo. They touched on it a little bit, but I feel like they're going to touch on more of it in the part 2, obviously. But it was serious, right? And I love the fact that they even said something that I don't even think I knew. So basically, obviously, he got a settlement from that Pepsi debacle, as he should. And all of his proceeds went to, I don't think he was at the children's hospital, but it went to the hospital burn unit or something like that. All of his proceeds. And they showed a lot of his charity and his charity work, and how basically, obviously later on in his life is going to touch more on this, but he was like the most charitable celebrity, period. And like I say, I love the fact that they kind of already out the gate showed his heart and how he would visit, you know, the children and everything, you know. So the charity they touched on and the burns and stuff like that, how he had to be quite resilient. And I feel like they did it quite respectfully, where they kind of alluded to, this is kind of where, you know, he got introduced to certain pain medication, right? And out of sheer necessity, his nerves were exposed. You know what I'm saying? His nerves. He was in pain. You know, like, I think when I was younger, I believed like, oh, his hair just caught on fire. No, like his nerves in his head, like it was like major surgery that had to be done. But like I said, I do think they did it quite respectfully, of how showing like, no, this is the start of a thing. This is how things came about. He's in a lot of pain, right? And like I say, later on, I'm sure in the next film, it's going to go into some of his disorders and stuff like that, right? Like I say, the vitiligo and other things as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to see the next part of the movie, and I think they're going to do a little bit more in depth on that. Also too, what I loved about this movie is they really showcased Michael's pure heart, the purity of his heart, his childlike nature, you know, his innocence. in a world that is absolutely filthy. Absolutely filthy. And just the absolute bright light that he is. For anybody that knows about astrology or anything like that, Michael Jackson is a starseed. And oh boy, did he live up to his calling, sort of a thing. Michael Jackson came in this world and absolutely turned it upside down in the best way possible. This world would not be what it is today without Michael Jackson and his contributions. What I loved, and what's very interesting, very, very interesting, I was talking to my mother about this in the car, right? Michael Jackson, even when he was alive, I believe it's in certain interviews, he would talk about, like, you know, he just channels, you know, and that's where he gets his music from. It's from God and stuff like that, right? Michael Jackson growing up was a Jehovah's Witness. I don't know if he was that all the way up until he passed away. I'm not sure, but I know he was a Jehovah's Witness. Certain concepts, right, of like manifestations, even his affirmations that he would tell himself, and even this concept of channeling, those are not Jehovah's Witness concepts. Heck, they aren't even Christianity concepts, right? I just kind of learned about these concepts later on in life, kind of when I became more of a spiritual person, right? So it's real interesting, isn't it? Where he learned those concepts, you know? And great concepts to have, you know, manifestation and affirming yourself constantly, right? And channeling, meditation and stuff like that. And I'm just real curious, you know, like I said, he did not grow up with those concepts. Of course, he had been all over the world. He had traveled. I'm sure he had encountered a lot of people. And like I said, Michael Jackson was actually very like spiritual. Like Michael Jackson was very conscious. And if you listen to a lot of his music, you could hear it too as well. But I thought that was very interesting because, like I said, I learned some of those concepts later on, like kind of once I got out of organized religion and started, you know, going more into spirituality. So I think that was very deep of him and very actually ahead of his time, because I'm not going to lie to you. Think about who you know in the 80s that was talking about manifestation, channeling, you know, affirmations. Like, it's kind of ahead of his time for him, quite progressive. And of course, as a starseed would be like Michael Jackson, of course. Guys, overall, the movie, 10s. Do go see it for yourself. It was absolutely incredible. Everybody did excellent. I kid you not. I want to see Michael up for an Oscar nomination. And if I don't, I know it's rigged, period. We know the media tries to try Michael all the freaking time. But this movie definitely deserves it. And no, I'm not just saying that because I love Michael Jackson. Do go out and see it for yourself. It is worth the ticket. It is worth the night out with the family. It is absolutely phenomenal. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.